We are not so many people, which is good, because it maybe gives us more space to discussion. I hope we will have a good discussion here about that. We all agree that we are not native English speakers, so we all have to do it very slowly. I suppose you all know each other? No? So if you could just, we are not that many people, just introduce yourself shortly and maybe tell what you expect from being here in this group. Maybe you start.
Okay. My name is Jaromír. I work in low threshold institution, 11 to 19 years in a small town in central Bohemia. I'm pretty new in social services, slightly about 1 year. I'm very happy to finally do the job that has meaning, which wasn't the case for the previous years. I was working in the automotive industry. So, the rights on the border where we could be on the wrong side or do civil damage to the crime. It's very, very slippery. So I hope to get some inspiration and with a long time experience.
I'm a sociologist and therapist. This therapist, I work with men in domestic violence and with people. And sociologist, I try to explain problem of social exclusion and social public places.
Well, my name is Jan, and I work as a social worker on the night shelter for displaced people or homeless guys. And I've been working with them, with homeless people, since my university studies. Actually, it begins just nice side job to my some students money, and then I realized that actually I like it. What I like it, or maybe it fulfills me with some kind of feeling that I can help to make some better good within the society and even to within the people which needs it.
My name is Jan also. I was social worker in youth club. I also do street work. So my target group is youngsters from 13 to 22. I also do some other works in events, events in football or movement.
I'm Matouš, I work with kids in Dzičany. I'm trying to work with them, and I'm interested in social work and this kind of thing. And I hope I see you. I seen you yesterday. So I saw you yesterday.
It's okay.
So I'm here.
Okay.
My name is Ida. I'm a sociologist. I make a research with my colleague, and we make a research for street work online. That's the such a conflict with the rights that the citizens have. Foreign people doesn't have access, for example, health insurance and so on. So yeah, it's just like, I have a few questions in my mind to see how we get to the Hi, I'm Andrea. I am a social worker in this club in Posen with children from 6 to 19 years old. And I heard your lectures today, and I think it was interesting, so that's why I'm here.
Okay.
I hope it will be.
Okay, then it's me now. Yeah, I introduced myself yesterday, Stefan Schützler from Berlin, Germany, working for the organization of Gangway since 25 years now. Doing social work with basically with people from the what I call the white German underclass, so natural-born Germans, underclass people, since nearly all the time, or for nearly all the time. Of course, recently, in the last 2 or 3 years, we had more and more people, even in our region, where I work, more and more people with a refugee background. So the basic of our work is always like, we work with the people we meet in public. We don't ask for their status or where they come from, where their parents come from and stuff like that. We look at the people and always ask ourselves the question, if we do not work with those people, who else will do it? And if we don't find a satisfying answer to that, we say, yeah, there are people who are nice guys who work with those, there are youth centers, there are churches, there are organizations, whatever. Then we say, okay, good luck to them, it's not our job. But in many, many cases we find that people, or that there is no other one to work with those. And so we work with that. And it happened to us that the area we are working in, this is in the southeast of Berlin, formerly East Berlin. There are much more, like say, Germans than any migrants or people with a migration background. And so we started working with them, and we found out very soon that if you work with those special people, from poor families, from destroyed families, from unemployment, with an unemployment rate and so on, we found that there's a lot of right-wing extremism in those people. And we somehow had to deal with this. And when I started working, this was with those guys, this was in the mid-90s. I started working with those guys. There were really big problems of how to define, even to define who is right-wing extremist and who is not, and what does it mean to be a right-wing extremist. There are there were many intelligent, smart people in universities and researchers and stuff who made up very smart definitions. And there was this public approach of people saying Nazis are intolerant and racist and violent. And then I went to a hip-hop concert, and so no Nazis, but very violent and intolerant and people. And I thought, no, this is not necessarily meaning to be a right-wing extremist. Look at people like Ice-T or whatever, you can see it. And so me and my colleague then started to make up our own definition of the people we are working with. And I started with a very, very interesting article I read once, was a lecture by Umberto Eco, you know, the author, a lecture called The Eternal Fascism, made up in 1994, I think, where he explained that, or he starts with an analysis of a book by Ernest Hemingway, For Whom the Bell Tolls. Maybe you know that, or the movie, at least maybe you know the movie, where he says, Hemingway, it is about the Spanish Civil War, and he says, Hemingway always uses the name fascist for the enemies of the left wings. And he says, no, but you know, you had Italian fascists, you had Spanish nationalists, and you had German National Socialists there on the other side. Why is he always referring to fascists as the enemy? And so he makes up that there is a kind of eternal fascism, and that means you have like, that's my definition, like Lego bricks, you know that Lego bricks? And if you combine them together in a certain combination, then you have that thing that you can call eternal fascism or right-wing ideology. I just made up some copies of that. It's 2 shades of paper. Maybe you just, well, I need it too. And based on that, we try to find out, me and my colleague, what is it when our kids do call themselves right-wing extremists? And we started that on our own, and then we finally came to the point that it's the best and simplest thing to ask the kids themselves. So we went to them and said, hey, young, we always refer to them as Kevin, because Kevin is a very usual name we have. Young boy, young woman, you call yourself a Nazi. Why? Very simple. Simple language is always needed in this class. Why do you call yourself a Nazi? And then he would say, I'm not a Nazi, because Nazis were in the World War II, and that's were all very old men, so I'm not a Nazi. Okay, you are a neo-Nazi. Yeah? Yes. I would call myself that. And so what does that mean to you? What does that mean to you? Why do you call yourself like that? You run around with, you know, your Nazi stuff, with your swastikas and stuff like that. Why do you call that? And then we slowly define this Lego bricks, as I call it, these elements that I wrote down here. And this was the basic of our definition. And as we are social workers, this is the points where we can approach. Yeah? So the first thing always is violence. The acceptance of violence in a personal or as well as for personal reasons, as for the society as a whole. It's violence, it's the strong versus the weak. And the strong have the right to lead the weak. And the strong can use their strengthness violently to show the way for the weak. This is often, as we saw it, it's often based on personal experiences. They see it at home. Yeah? Daddy is violent to the family, to mommy, to the kids, and he's beating them. And he's the leading figure in the family. So this is where the violence does come from. And then at a certain point, violence becomes a good thing, because from one day on, the son is able to fight the father and to protect his family. So then violence is a good thing. And this is what we always see, that there's an ambivalence of things that we usually do reject. Yeah, we say violence is a bad thing. And no, violence isn't a bad thing by definition. It's just, you know, what you make of it in their case, in their point of view. Yeah? They are often self-stigmatizing them as victims of the society. We are only defending ourselves. You know about the famous 14 words, we must secure a future for the... It's the famous thing, the 14 words. That's where the 14 in for example, Blood and Honor comes from. 14 words? must secure a future for our white race and our children. So it's 14 words. It's very feminine, and this is the basis of. We are defending our race. We are defending our country. Yeah, we are defending. I'm defending my family. Yeah, this is very, very. Yeah, I'm violent, but it's only in defense. And if I attack somebody, it's only.
For his good.
Yeah, no, not for his good, but for prevention. Yeah, violence, prevention, violence. Yes. Okay. So it's often like that, defending, and it's very defensive. The next thing we always saw is sexism. It's a part of it, based on women are weaker than men, and so there is a biological role model that men are, yes, we are superior to women, and this is it's very, very interesting. This model is also taken by the women. So we have often we do have in this radicalized, organized or orientated groups, we do have lots of women, lots of girls there, because they first of all they seek protection, yeah, because they have nasty experiences in their personal life, so they look for protection. And on the other hand, they say, yeah, I need, the boys do need people, for cooking and for all the other stuff, I don't want to mention now, but this is biological, and it is taken by women as well, this work. Next thing, and this is very interesting, it's anti-capitalism. And my colleague put it once that said, especially for the East German young people, this socialism in National Socialism is very, very important. And then now it becomes more and more replaced by ethnic community. Yeah. So there's a socialist or anti-capitalist approach that says everybody's equal. Everybody should be equal, yeah, and there should be no rich people and no poor people, and everybody should be equal. But only for our people, of course. So what we saw in the last 2 years, for example, was a massive campaign from the right-wing party, especially from the Nationalist Party, so from the farthest right party, to say, save German homeless people. Take care of them, give them money if they are Germans. Yeah? Don't waste your money on foreigners. Don't give money to Roma beggars. Give it only to German. So they took donations, they took sleeping bags and gave money and food and stuff to German homeless people.
May I ask, so what is the suggestion to the others? So if you help the Germans, what will happen to the others? What's their opinion about it?
Let them freeze to death, they don't belong here.
So I mean, they should help themselves.
No, they should. It's. I know where this will lead to. Yeah, this question leads to special problems, but I'm still in the stage of explaining.
Okay.
Yeah, things, and they don't think that far.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, they say Germans should help each other, and that there should be a solidarity, a national solidarity, a kind of national socialism. Yeah.
I think the same here. The argument would be that they go home.
Yes.
Go back.
Yes. 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 The next thing is racism, and under racism I claim everything, from anti-Semitism to what's the newest thing I heard was Sexism. Sexism.
What is it?
If you very new, it's if you be racist to people who are small.
Small.
Yeah.
Sexism.
No, it's basically racism is that you blame somebody for something he cannot change.
Yes.
This is what I call racism. So you are born with a black color, or you are born in a Jewish family, or you are born small. No sexism. And this comes in two different things. We have the good old biological racism. We still do have it in the heart of Europe. Just if you look at how people treat Roma, there's a very, very deep racist, biological racism. They are stupid, they are stinking because they are Roma people. Yeah? I always thought this is centuries ago that people with a darker color or with from another culture also are just biological stupid. So, but it still existed. It still existed. But more, we do have that cultural racism. That means it is, they are not bad by Muslims, for example. They are not bad by biological, but it's from their culture that they come from. It's because of their religion and stuff like that. So this is the cultural approach. Then we have the xenophobia, but xenophobia is, in my, it's what I thought is the best translation in English. In German we have that word Fremdenfeindlichkeit. Yeah? This is, a phobia is that you fear something, but Feindlichkeit means to be hostile, yeah? to other people. You know that word?
We don't have such.
You don't have such? No, but you know the German word, like sauerkraut and schnitzel, and so this is Fremdenfeindlichkeit. Yeah, this is very nice to, proud to be German again. So, but
So many
that,
beautiful words.
thank you very much. Yes. Can we stop it here? No, that includes not only people from faraway countries. That includes, for example, left-wing people. That includes gay people. Everything, that they do not accept as their lifestyle, their planned lifestyle. If you talk to those kids, it's always the same if you talk to young people. Where do you see yourself in 10 years? And it's always like, I have a house, I have a car, I have a dog, and a big garden, and a wife, and children, maybe a job. So this is always like this middle class thing that they want dream of. Yeah? Only a few of them says, I'm traveling around the world, for example. This is not because it's not in their dream. Yeah? In their dream is, I possess things. Yeah? And this is very important because this is their plan of life. And everything that does not fit in this lifestyle, yeah, is at least to be feared, yeah? But in most cases it's dangerous, and we have to fight, we have to defend ourselves against this. Yeah? And this is what comes here from, this includes social democrats as well. Yeah, this is, and who's threatened by social democrats? Yeah? But this is what I say is, what I always say is, this includes it. Yeah? It's very, very important to know that. Maybe it includes social workers as well. Yeah? Because they don't know. Who are you? What do you want? Yeah? You are going around here, who are you? Yeah.
NGOs,
Yeah, yeah,
popular now.
So the next thing is that we have nationalism, and I did not find a better definition for that split between patriotism and nationalism. That a patriot loves his country, and nationalist hates all the others. That's a big difference. See, when Germany defeated Brazil, for example, with 7-1 was last championship. Not this one, but last championship, we had a people of 80 million patriots. That never happened before since 1945. Yeah? This was a moment where Germany really, as a whole, discovered patriotism. Up to that point, there was in the public discourse always a mixture of patriotism means nationalism. So, and this is the famous labeling approach. The labeling, you put labels on people, and someday they say, okay, yeah. As my grandma always said, if you call somebody a pig for a long, long time, no wonder he will start grunting someday. Yeah? Because this is the labeling approach, and this is one of the biggest thing that we in Germany didn't have a real deep discussion about what is nationalism and then what is dangerous about nationalism and what is patriotism. Yeah? For them, here in this, it's really they mean nationalism. Yeah? We, the Germans, and so on and so on. Then we had that big glorification of the past. In past times, everything was better. The older I get, the more I say, yes, it is. Things worked back then. But for those, for those guys, they mean it literally. In the past times, things were better. But it's combined with a weak knowledge. So what really often hear is, in East German times, when the wall was standing, and Adolf Hitler was the leader and built the Autobahn, there were no foreigners because of the war, and everything was better then. Everybody had a job, social security, and we are all what was people. And he stand there and said, what? What do you mean by that? This is completely different and completely. No, this is. And then we have something very interesting. They have very special knowledge about certain things in history. So, for example, they can tell you exactly the difference between a Mark III tank and a Mark IV tank and a Tiger tank, or something like that, or about, SS Division number 455 fighting in Stalingrad or whatever. So, very special knowledge because they look at special issues and inform them about that. Normally, as I described the cultural background of that means they have a weak knowledge as a whole. Yeah? And so in most cases it's very, very easy to argue with them on the basis of facts because you always have read one book more than that or one internet article more than that. Yeah? But in some cases you come to points where you say, who was Heinrich, for example, who was it? What did he do and why was he killed? And so and they can tell you about him. And you sit there, oh yeah, no, he was a Nazi. Don't discuss. No, you cannot do this. But and then you get your borders, your limits. Yeah, and know your limits is very important. So this is basically on what we are facing and how we define the work, or the target. And then we said, okay, what to do with them? What shall we do with them? How do we work with them? How do we, what shall we do? And there's a basic decision we made. We, as a team, made, and that was we will work with them as we work with all other clients that have illegal backgrounds. Like we work with them with all the criminals we work with, whether they belong to the mafia or to the rocker clan or if they are right-wing extremists. This is the basic thing. But we have a special limit, which I talked about yesterday. It is we will not involve in the structure. We will not become the social worker for the structure, be that the mafia, or be that the drug dealers, or be that the right-wing extremist parties. So if somebody becomes a real part, a real member of that group, of that organization, then we stop working with him. And we make that transparent. Say, come on boy, now you're the big Nazi leader, so we cannot work with you anymore. We'll greet you on the street when we meet you. We talk to you how it is for you, how you are going and stuff like that. But we will not offer you any social assistance. Because if you need one, then you can take it from your organization. They will grant you a job and a flag and stuff like that. And so this is the main approach we do. And all the other things we do are really the same that we do to our clients as well. Might be explaining to you what our individual approach is, but this is a bit away from the. So that's what we are basically doing with that. Shall I give you an input about our personal approach, an individual case work? Maybe that shows a lot. I hope that there is a pen. If not, we have a problem.
Or you can,
There's somebody a pen?
or maybe you can just open some board and write it there. It's the easiest thing that I'm always doing.
Yeah, but
Can you bring it?
yeah, okay. No, I really do like to, you know, I always wanted to become a teacher, you know. I really do like to do like things like that.
May I ask about the age group?
The age group is, yeah, of course, the age group is from the age of 14 to 23, 24.
So like high school.
Is it high school? Yeah. It's not basic school. Thank you very much.
Switch to our
Yeah. But beware, it's a dangerous. Yeah, it's the age group is, and our clients are mainly in the let's say 60% male, 40% female. But this is only for our district where I work, because Gangways are working all over Berlin, and that's in the western part of Berlin. It's 95/5 male, female, because they are working with the muscle community.
And once again, 60-40?
60 male, 40 female in public places. So, I don't know about Czech Republic, but in Germany, you know, in general, when a guy comes to school wearing a Nazi T-shirt, the school is very unhappy about it. Especially the director, because of the image, not of the Nazi T-shirt, but the image, you know. And there are loads and loads of money spent in fighting right-wing extremism in Germany. No? Wait, it will come. It will come. Be sure. So, let's say Kevin. I always call him Kevin because Kevin is so usual. Kevin or Chantal. But now we have Kevin, and Kevin comes to school wearing a shirt with a big number 88 on it. And because the director was at a workshop the week before, he knows 88 means bad number. Bad number. So Kevin is a Nazi. Yeah? So what will happen now, usually in school? In school in Germany, well, there'll be, we have a Nazi problem, we don't want to have that Nazi problem. So, what we do is we do workshops, we do programs, we do weeks and weeks of education, special education against racism and stuff. So we will invite people from specialists, counselors, again from Nazi fighting and stuff, and we do 2 weeks of special discourse in our school, democratic projects and stuff like that, and put it, and in the end, all the school together goes to the cinema watching Schindler's List. And well, they do it. Actually, they do it. So, and in the end, we ask Kevin, are you still a Nazi? And Kevin said, no. No way. Never. This is the typical approach, one of the typical approach to that problem. We define a problem, or people define a problem, and say, we have to work on that problem. So, but people, as we meet them, are not, not only surfaces, but they are what I call, dice. Yeah? They have many, many surfaces. Yeah? So, one other surface that you can see, for example, is people you see, if, like, Kevin is meeting with his friends in the park at night, yeah, and there are lots of drinking and doing stuff, yeah. So, and there's this old grandpa walking at night time with his dog through the park and feels disturbed from Kevin and his friends. That grandpa is a Nazi as well. Yeah, no problem for him. What he is disturbed by is the alcohol. Those, they drink too much. I feel disturbed. So this is another approach. Another approach is Kevin's parents, for example. For them, and they only see their kid. Yeah, it's my child. So it really depends on where you are looking at from this guy. You see different surfaces of him. There are two interesting things about that surfaces when we meet people. One is a kind of, what I said, you don't see it from the beginning. Yeah? You just see it in special situations. I remember once with a guy called SS Rico. SS like in SS, because he had the tattoos here all over. This strange, maybe I tell you later, but it was a strange guy, SS Rico, and not very brilliant. Really, really stupid guy. So we were fishing, night fishing, two men sitting on the lake with a campfire, yeah, fishing, talking to each other. Great night. One of the best things I think in an individual case work with boys is go fishing with them on the lake. Very nice. Don't ask me about girls, I don't know. But maybe shopping, no. Okay, no, but fishing was okay. So we sat there at night at the campfire, and suddenly that guy, who was really, really, really illiterate, started to make quotations of Hermann Hesse. You know Hermann Hesse? So lyrics, man, so, and he started to talk about the stars bring sparkle and stuff. Hermann Hesse, I read it. What? Where do you know that from? Yeah, when I was in jail, that was the only book they had. It was so boring, and I started reading it. Because it was the only book he ever read, he remembered it, and I was very impressed. But this was something I didn't see at all before. Yeah? And then there's this very interesting surface that we have. I call it the mirror. This is the surface that people will present us, because there we see what we want to see. It's like, like I take my son, for example. My son is, well, yeah, it's okay. No, let's say he does like eating chocolate as much as I do. So, and at the age of when he was, 10 or 11, me and my wife decided, no, okay, we have to do something unless he makes the same mistakes as we do. So we said, no chocolate anymore. Oh, that was hard. Mm-hmm. The problem was my mother was living 2 doors from us. So, and then one day she told me that story, that he came to her, after school he came to her, and was not asking for chocolate. No, he came there. Grandma, today in school, I made a very good presentation, and I get a very good mark for it. Shall I do the washing for you? Shall I do washing cups and plates for you? Yeah? And shall I bring out the garbage for you? So he made the perfect boy. Yeah? So mom or grandma couldn't, she was not strong enough. So, and this is what I said. He showed her the perfect thing. He showed her the mirror. And this is exactly what Kevin is doing after 2 weeks of bombardment with democracy, is to show everybody, no, I'm a good one. I'm the good one. So everybody believes, except us, because we, as social workers, do know something. This is only surfaces. And these surfaces may be very, very problematic. This is how he behaves in public, and this is where the problem comes from. Our task as social worker is to break through these things and to get to the inner core. Yeah? And look at what is happening here. Why did he build up this? And why is he threatening all the other people with that? Why is it? And there we often see victim. And believe me, I met 5 or 4 young women being really leaders in the right-wing extremist group, female groups, called Mädelschau-Figuren. We had 5 or 4 of them. So very, very important figures, female figures in the scene, and all of them had faced sexual abuse at home. All of them. And what they did was simply to hire bigger guys to prevent them from becoming from being victims anymore. That had a high relation to that. Yeah? Another thing could be the dreams, yeah, that they can never fulfill. Yeah? Want to be a pilot, for example. You know, that you don't become a pilot. You know, if you can hardly read or write, if you come from that class, from the underclass, you know, you don't become a football star or whatever. You know, and so this is the inner core, and this is the traps. Some of us social workers are coming in, or treading into traps. One of the traps might be we only look at this surface that is a problem to the society, that we focus only on that. One of the traps might be that we see in the mirror, yeah? And one of the traps might be that we say, okay, we stay here and explain to everyone, I know, you know, yeah, he's a Nazi, I know, I see it, but did you know he was a victim of child abuse? Did you know that? That explains a lot, doesn't it? But this is a trap, because our job is now to take this and to bring this and this into a balance. And that means here we come to the point where we need assistance from other people. There we come back to the networking point from yesterday, because, you know, I'm not a psychologist, you know. I cannot work with, or cannot change things. He's a therapy leader, for example. So what we do try is working together with other people to build up a new cube, yeah? That is more in balance with this. So this is basically of our job, and so this is, this is how we do the individual approach. And there we see, and there we come back, that the ideology might be a problem, but it's not the core problem in most cases. In most cases. Sometimes you look at the inner core and see Nazi. So, well, then it's like it is. We will not eat up the universe. We will not enlighten the world. We are just social workers. We will not save the world. So in some cases it doesn't work. But in most cases there is something, you break through and you find it. So far. And I was hoping you have questions or remarks or protests so that we can, because
maybe one example with him. As you said, okay, he's a Nazi, but look at him as a victim and start to protecting him. Because in my history, I met there was once an example. We were with our kids in Germany, in Leipzig, on the exchange staying, and there were even a group from England, and they were from Brighton, Birmingham, and their origin was from Jamaica. These kids. Really quite issue, they would say in England, they are quite correct. And I remember that our kids, which actually we realized they are really polite and not assertive, because that's our style of education, not to push children to be assertive. So they were quite calm and nice, but these British guys were quite lively. They all night do something in the hostel. And once, and from the youth leader, they were really protected. And they just show us that there were some issues in their past. Because there was one girl who was 20 years old, And okay, later I knew what happened. So once there was some problem in the hostel,
Yeah.
and the director of the hostel called me, look, your kids. And I said, actually it's not my kid, but I can talk with the British guys.
Yeah.
He said, doesn't care, it's your kid. And I saw it as a fault. So I knew which girl was it, that 20 years old. And okay, it was my mistake in the beginning. I came to the girl as like a girl, and I said, look, I just received a note that you were smoking on the toilet, which is not allowed. And she started totally cry. And I knew that she was quite, lively, she was quite rebel, but at the moment she started to cry and directly went to the youth leader. And then they came to me and then started a big speech about, look, you cannot talk to her like this. She had issues in her past. She was really abused. And next time, if you want to talk with her, talk to me, and I can calmly explain to her. But, okay, I am not psychologist, as you said, not therapist. But according to me, in this moment, she really exploited, the girl.
Yeah.
And it was so easy, for her just to say, I'm a victim.
Yes.
It's my simple
Yeah.
behavior.
Yeah.
So I was like, it was really, okay, but on the other hand, I even talked with some psychologists what to do with this. And maybe you will show us how to work with these victims who really knows that they are victims from the past, and they a bit like put it in the mind, and now they can use it as an advantage. I don't want to reduce, but I'm not a psychologist,
Yeah,
so I don't want
not
to.
too, so- Yeah, but this is exactly what you are telling is exactly the same phenomenon that some people use for political things. Yeah, but it's we discover very often that people exploit a kind of weakness. Yeah, my favorite thing is bikers, bicycle riders. I go by car. Rules are always for the other ones. Yeah, I can go pedestrian walk with my bike, and I can cross every red light with my bike, and everybody has to be very, very careful with me because I'm weak. Yeah, unless I drive on the pedestrian walk, because then I'm strong to the foot walkers. So this is. I'm cardiac, so it's the eternal hate, this is exploitation of weakness is a phenomenon in our society. I would say, first thing is how do you know in this situation? How should you know? You behave like an adult or like an educator should behave. Of course, there's a rule, and you say, okay, how could you know about that? So, and it could be part of the healing process that in that special case to set up to act just like normal. It's normal. It's very normal to, there's a rule, just so. And this is, for example, here when we come to the argument of political terms, just to say, okay, you don't have to like those other people. Yeah, but just to, they are there. They belong to your reality. It's like bad weather. It's you can complain about bad weather, but you cannot do anything. So just fucking accept it that it's there. It's normal. It's a normal life. And just to, and this is what my approach would always like that is to calm down things a bit. Yeah, it can explain a lot, and you can make out a lot of it, but just keep contact and keep calm. Just calm down. This is the best approach, I would say, in that case.
Maybe I just said at the end what happened at the end.
Yeah,
that the youth leader, we said something like, okay, let's make a big session to talk about it with all of us. But okay, according to me, the British guys weren't like the British youth workers weren't like educated to be youth workers. And she was also from Jamaica, a really spiritual girl, full of power. She I really like her, but she started to talk like politician. Yeah, about the issues of these our kids. And I can tell you that all of the kids, even some weaker youth workers from the Czech Republic and Germany, started to cry because there were a group of kids from Britain who were too issued, and of course she all the time used issue, not problems, yeah, because it's just correctly issued. And I was just sitting there. No, people, no. And in my mind, just I was like this, yeah, and everyone was screaming, great. So you were stuck.
But this is a thing about British social workers. They come from a very strict political background, much more than in Germany. I can see that. Much more from the classical political approach, like class, working class versus the other capitalist class and stuff like that. They are very strong, and don't mess with that. This is it's very interesting. But okay, maybe somebody else.
About the public discussion about Nazi past or Nazi present in Germany. I've been in a research team, Czech German, and we have been serving people who were living in the today's Czech areas before the Second World War, and to move after war. And we have found some men in Germany who are making some collaboration in Czech with some Czech municipality about some renovation of something. And the girls from the German part of the team, they discovered that they are part of the Dickersbund. It is a very right part of Sudetenlandsmannschaft. And we haven't known anything. We are not experts on Sudetenlandsmannschaft, and we wanted to know more, to get some more information about it and put it to a research work. And it was impossible. They just said, no, it's impossible to have any touch to it for our organization. We couldn't get public money anymore. We just cannot do it, and we cannot talk with you. And for us it was like, what can we do? Because we have been absolutely lost in the information. It was impossible to know more. We don't speak German so much to know it. We believe they will help us to find some orientation. No, it's not possible. And even at the end, we have found some organization in Czech, which were founded by we have a word. There's a people who were born in the place, but then they have moved and they have special relation to the place. And maybe they have also been members of the Dickersbund, but it was not possible to recognize them. So we've been just lost because Germany didn't want to speak anything.
This is this is a big problem in Germany. Is that we have never had an open discussion about the World War and the Nazi things. Never. It was, in the beginning after the World War when the big rebuilding came, and so everybody had to work, and and nobody, that were the people, who were in Stalingrad, who were in Africa, and so, but they never talked about that, and so that it was only oral history. It was never written down somewhere, and there was no open discussion about that. And of course, my family, my father, for example, we are from East Prussia. He's from East Prussia, and so I could be a part of not the Dickersbund, but for the others, for the East Prussian Landsmannschaft. I could be a member of that because it's from the children and stuff. Even my son could. So, by the way, that's one thing I always use in discussions with those people, with those right-wing Germans, when they say, yeah, those refugees come and stuff and that. And I said, yeah, fucking yes, I'm a refugee child of my own. My father was a refugee. And this is very interesting that normally when all those refugees came to Germany, the normal structure, the best structure to work with them and to do something to offer them would have been the refugee organizations like the Landsmannschaft, because they know, they should know at least, but they rejected fully. And this was something which the German conservatives, one of the biggest mistakes of the German conservatives, not to welcoming them, and not to offer their structures to them, but rejecting them. So, because now, in this case, it becomes a racial problem, racist problem, you know. We serve only for refugees who are, you know, the years before there was a big discussion over a museum of refuge in Europe, yeah, where the Sudeten, Deutschen Landsmannschaften became a big issue. Yeah? And then the real refugees came, and I never heard of that museum anymore. But there were millions of euros spent for that, you know. And this is where the racist part of that comes. But it explains also why, and this might be interesting for your organization, when it always comes, why did Angela Merkel make this policy of opening the borders? It had two reasons. The one reason is that Germany has a refugee history of being refugees, especially East Germans. They flew here from Prague, yeah? So there is a history of that. And the other thing is, it was fantastic possibility of making money in Germany. And they spend 16 billion euros in work for refugees. How much of that money is circulating in Germany? It's the same thing they did when they bought all the old cars, you know, and so everybody was buying a new car. And so this is even if there's 5 or 6 billion euros going abroad to the home countries, the rest is staying in Germany and circulating in Germany. It's a fucking great thing. And we should invite some people there from there too. So.
As you said, because maybe it's not the topic of your, but it's even in the Czech Republic quite now important, because maybe within 5 years, now it's quite stronger, that even young people are not radicalized, but inclined to communism, or, you know, feeling about the beautiful past. But we have a big problem, because I remember 5 years ago, I talked with a 18-year-old boy who actually said, really, he meant it, that he is going to vote for communism, which would be 20 years ago absolutely, yeah. And because I saw some documents about Germany and how Germany treated with the Second World War. And there was always, you know, 60s, the great 60s, and the new generation start to talk about what their parents did during the Second. You think it wasn't enough? Because, and for us it's the same, because there was a 1989, directly border, there was something in the past, somebody did something, and now we have to do something what they want. So, what do you think? What would be? What you mean by discussion? What you mean? How to show to young people what was happening? Yeah. What would be the best?
You know, look at the '68 Germany, Western Germany thing. It's a generations conflict, nothing more. Just a conflict of generations, and what you see now is exactly the same. Those were the kids whose parents were in the age of making and having babies. So, and they have a generations conflict, and it's in order to, you know, someday people like to shock their parents, just for generation, and behave completely different way, just because of emancipation. This is yes, on one hand you should, it's like teaching your children, you know, it's like give them the right and the possibility to emancipate from you, and accept that there's a different thinking, but always be open to talk to them, and to listen to them. And not only, but this is basically, you know, basic pedagogical way to say, not only telling them things, but asking them and really listening. Really, this is the art of working. You know that you know, often when I maybe you know that situation. You come to talk to police and there's a girl with issues. As I look now, and I had that situation back 2 weeks ago when the youth center. I came there in the youth center and there was this girl and she made things. And then there was the colleague in the youth center and said, "Yeah, well, I talked to her. I talked to her. Mm-hmm. We had a long talk, 2 hours we talked." I said, "Yeah, what happened with it?" "Yeah, I told her that she should." So this is what I mean, you know, when you be open, even accept things that are weird, that are strange, yeah. Just because, you know, they will find out sooner or later. They find out themselves, yeah. On personal level, if it comes to political parties, to political organizations, that's a different thing. That's a different thing, yeah. If they organize something together, then it's a bit more problematic. But if we as social workers, that's my opinion, we as social workers do our main work with individuals. We are not there for saving the world. So we are there for being assistant to individuals. So this is, and the thing is, what I see now, what you mentioned maybe, what I see now, if we look at the situation in general, we see that we have a polarization, an increasing gap between, you know, between America and Europe, in between Europe, between Christians and Muslims, and between left and right and up and down and whatever. So what I see is that this gap is becoming bigger and bigger, and everybody's digging in his hole. You know, the answer is often, if we see, for example, right-wing extremism in Germany is a problem, is a growing problem. Of course, we have those national conservative AfD now, which is more national conservative than right-wing extremists. But obviously there are still right-wing extremist people also in that organization. Just to give you an example of how deep it goes in Germany, you know, you remember the film Lord of the Rings? Lord of the Rings, the movie? When the third part came out, it was, I don't know, a few years ago. The third part came out, and I went to cinema with a group of guys. So, and there's this very special scene in the beginning. You remember the movie? There's this very special scene in the beginning when they sit, all those Ohelians sit in the big hall and celebrate their fallen people who are fallen in the battle before. And in the end of his speech, the leader says, "To all our fallen guys, hail." And half the cinema answered. This is Germany. This is it. And you tell that story in Germany, and there's lots of people, 2 people who are working with right-wing or working on right-wing extremism. And everyone says, "What? No." Because, you know, because bubbles, we dig in holes. We are working against right-wing extremism by strengthening the left wings. Yeah? We don't care anymore for taking people back from there. Instead of building bridges, we dig in holes.
Maybe it's deeper that, you know, it is being said that there are circles that there's the eros power, that things are getting together, and then it comes chaos when all falls apart. So perhaps we are in this time. But I can imagine, you know, I can understand the growth of the right-wing extremism in Germany, because if you like let's say the overall education, then you pick up, as you say, what you like from the history. And if you say Germany was great, and so on, we conquered half of the world, it's good. But I don't understand, good. I don't understand the growth of this same right-wing extremism, Nazism and fascism in this country, where we were on the list of the people to get rid of.
The Slavic countries,
Yeah,
or Russians.
Nah, no, I would say, yes.
You have been on the list?
You will, but no, because my grandfather, I told and I didn't tell you, I had the discussion yesterday evening, because I found some writings from my grandfather, who was in the Wehrmacht, who was a sergeant in the Wehrmacht, and that's called Tagebuch? Diary. And so I read that, and he was, there was at least 3 Bohemians in his regiment, and he was very, you are white, you are blonde, nothing, no problem.
No, like people from the Sudetenland. They had to go to Wehrmacht, these people. But they
No,
had,
they refer to them as
They
Bohemians.
had German ethnicity, these people.
Okay.
And they were called Bämisch, maybe
Yeah,
in German. So, but the Czech ethnicity is something else. Then these people living.
Not to me. And in the end, I have to decide. No, this is the cynicism, that you get when you walk always on the garbage, Yeah, and this is start to drink on your own. Don't take that too serious, but I could imagine that is a kind of self-reflection on becoming together, feeling stronger on ethnicity, on my ethnic. Maybe it's not really that based on past, I had this funny discussion just a half a year ago with a guy from Slovakia, where I dared to mention that his flag is exactly the same as it was in World War II, in the fascist country. And he really fiery explained to me that not, because there's something different in the flag. And I just said, no, this is a Nazi flag. No, this has, not that much about Croatian flag. Croatian flag also. This is not about the Nazi thing. It's about us together, and we have something to we defend ourselves, coming together. And then you look for historical things. But maybe it's for Czech Republic, for example, it's not that strong as it is, for example, in Hungary. You look at you see many Hungarian cars with Greater Hungary stickers on it. So yeah, maybe for some countries or some cultures, it's a bit different. How big the Lego bricks are, Maybe it's not that very historical. Maybe it's anti-Russian more, right? For example, I could imagine. I don't know. And in Germany, in general, it's not that a big thing about the history. This is coming up slowly. They dig it out slowly, very, very slowly. Here, a good word about the Wehrmacht. There's some interesting movies about Hitler and this, but it's very, very slow. It's not past digging out the past very fast, not yet, but they're starting slowly.
My experience, this ignorance team, Czech German, at the finish, we had to write together some essay about Germany. And it had to have an historical, first part was historical. Well, and I have written down about the 1938, when German army took the border part of Czechoslovakia. And it Germans in that time. And for Czech or Czechoslovakia, it was the beginning of the war. And the German part of our team had longed to repair the things in the essay. And they'd written down that they had to come, the Germans had to come, because of Munich conference.
Yes.
The Munich conference had dictated to Germans to come and bring the part of Czech.
We were the
Which is-
victims.
Yeah, which is quite.
You're only defending.
It was quite fresh interpretation of this Czech trauma for us.
Yeah.
And it was impossible to judge it. Absolutely, it was not impossible. And on the other part, the end of the Second World War, Germans had to leave, and we Czechs, we believe, because of post-Berlin conference. The Stalin and American Britain said German should leave. And we just
So you were the victims.
yeah, and the Germans part of the team were now because of Benesch. It was just one man in history who made it because of Benesch. So it was quite complicated, but even the whole project was about a traumatic relationship between Czech and German. I haven't saw any reflection from the German side of the team. It was just, it's just marginal problem in German present. It's not so interesting. Maybe it's interesting for you, but for us, just please don't put any sense about Viticus Blunt in there because it's dangerous.
Yeah, this is so complicated with the Germans because they know there is so much. Every German carries 100 tons of history on his back, but never realized that. It's always like if you talk about wartime in Germany, in schools, wherever, it's only Hitler came to power. My son has it now at high school or at college. Hitler came to power, then he killed all the Jews, and then was World War II, and in the end, Hiroshima. Basically.
Really? It's like,
Very.
but actually at our schools, the communist period, it's not actually, because they have no time for it. So from
no
45,
there's no time, know where it came from, where the roots and so. No, it is basically, it's World War I, bad, revolution, Hitler. So, and then in between, and what happened, and so now, and then Hiroshima. And the Jews. It's very, very important to the Jews. So, and if you're in Bavaria, for example, Bavarian schools, then, for example, the Benesch decrees are very, not important, but they are in the so you don't hear about the 38 crisis. No. Because, Hitler came to power, killed all the Jews, and so there was no invasion of Czechoslovakia. So that didn't happen, anything. But about the Benesch decrees, you will hear a lot, especially in Bavaria, because they traditionally have a strong influence by those refugees.
Most of them moved to Bavaria from this remote.
But once I had a very, very strange thing. I was at the Baltic Sea at the Polish border to visit a colleague of mine, and he said, but today there's an anti-fascist demonstration because of the bombing of Swinemünde, which was very, very hard bomb raid in the end of 25 or 30,000 deaths. And the city today is Polish.
Yes.
And so there's this, what's it called, cemetery, where all the victims are buried. And year after year, the Nazis make a demonstration there, and after they are gone, then there's the anti-fascist demonstration, so to clean up. Okay, and I have to go there because, said that, I come with you, and so strange. We're coming there on the cemetery in the wood, and there were people standing with the flags of the Landsmannschaften, Schlesien, Ostpreußen, so I went to no, I didn't. And there were several other people, not many. And I said to him, yeah, okay, that's the Nazi demo, where's the anti-fascist? He said, no, this is the anti-fascist. Just imagine you have people who are right-wing away from those old guys. This is, you know, but nobody in the fake news media, nobody is in general is speaking about that. It's the principle of it is let's not talk about it. We ignore it.
Let's be correct.
Yeah, let's be politically correct. Let's focus on what is good, yeah, and ignore the rest. Because if we shut down our eyes, it will go away. Yeah? It worked basically for 50 years now. Yeah? Just ignore it.
You're mentioning two reasons for that Germany has the experience of being a refugee and then the money thing.
Yeah.
But I heard that I think it's quite it's true that there's still this stigma of World War II.
Yeah, of course.
That wasn't the German nation didn't deal with. Also for the poor education, but I heard and that I find it interesting that there was a German guy born in '44 somewhere close to Dresden, shortly before the bombing. Then when he grew up, let's say 20, then he actually realized that this really happened. And somehow he said that that the fact that he was already alive in the body, that it remained the memory. Somehow it kind of got into it. And I think it might be the answer that what you were saying, that the 18 years old kid voted for communism, for communists, because they don't remember it. I was 9 when it turned off, but I do remember the overall atmosphere. I do have the experience of how it felt. That might be one of the reasons why this all is coming back.
Yeah, but but to come back to the refugee crisis, then for example, obviously once in its lifetime Germany wanted to be on the right side, on the good side, yeah, and obviously, and it is a double take, because what would have happened if they didn't would have opened the border, that was. Especially in Germany, not to mention Hungary, but in Hungary, but if they didn't do it, there would be massive demonstration by the leftists, they would lose their power and stuff. And what they did instead was take it on all in and give it everyone a job. Every social worker, so all the leftists are gone from the street, earning money, working with it, and so you have no demonstration, no problem about. What they didn't count in was that there's so many right-wing people that make problems now and go on the street.
So they satisfied one part.
Yes, of course.
But also maybe you realize that okay, we took 1 million, but there's like hundreds of millions others.
Who can stay where they are. I don't know. This is, we are always talking. This is the complex. We are always talking about refugee crisis, and we reduce the whole problem of political extremism only about the discussion about whether refugees are good or not. And there's so much more to do, to discuss about that, or to focus on, We have that gap between poor and rich, that growing gap between poor and rich. We have that coming influence of religion coming back in our life, yeah? And so on and so on. We have very big problems. We don't talk about that, and we don't build bridges over that rivers, because we are only focusing on refugees and stuff. This is.
So what's funny that in Germany it could be the theme because there is like over 1 million of them, but is the number one theme for many people here, even there are no refugees in Germany.
11.
Okay.
Yeah, you have 11, yeah. We don't know how many we have.
Czech nationalism, it's a very, very difficult topic. But what my society has not reflected still is a class life, living of classes together. We somehow believe that we are still equal, like we have been before. But in fact, it's not right. We are not so much equal like we have been to. And I think we still don't have very open instruments on the situation. If you are in a very excluded region, in some places, you might use the class object for that. It's very useful, you see many things working together. But it's impossible to communicate in this vocabulary with I don't know, with government, with educated establishment, etc., etc. Because we don't reflect very much the class situation before 1989, after the development of the situation, and I think all the governments after 1989 still strongly believe in global capitalism. They wanted to support it, so they want to open this question. But in many places it became clear that this is the reason why the people are being frustrated, nationalized, hating someone who is different, etc.
Yeah, I think it is, it's a political problem. And it's much more than and it's, on the other hand, it's so easy to say this is political radicalized people. We exclude them from any discourse. We don't talk to extremists. We don't want that. Because we can exclude many people. You can exclude, for example, people when you say you are against global capitalism. You can say, what, you want to have the Stalinism back? Is that your okay? We don't talk with you. So, and this is what I mean with digging in. And I don't expect from conservatives to be the first one to build bridges, because that's why we call them conservatives. They like to dig in. So it's for us, for the liberals, to start building bridges, to reach our hands, to look at why do you think so? What's your problem? Is it a real problem? Can we try together to solve it? I accept you have fear from Islam. I can accept this. So now that I accept that your fear, maybe you want to know some Muslims, maybe you can move. And so it's for us to reach out, for us to start building bridges somehow. Not for the conservatives. If you wait for the conservatives, then you can wait a long time. So okay, I think we're done. Yeah. Thank you very much. It was very interesting. Thank you.